Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to this next episode of Psychoanalyzing Persona 4 Golden. This one's going to be a bit shorter than the other ones just because we're about to dive into a longer episode next time when Yosuke finally gets his persona. So getting ready for that, this episode is just going to look at the portion of the game where it's confirmed that Saki's died and examine what I take to be the thematic content of this part of the story, which is gossip, rumors. Throughout these next few minutes, we'll see students speaking amongst themselves, speculating about Saki's death, and it won't be the first or last time we see students gossiping in this way about the serious dramas, probably even right to call them tragedies, the tragedies of this game, but it's an important moment when we can crystallize what this gossiping and what this kind of rumor mongering really means in the context of Persona 4 Golden's other psychological aims. The gossiping students at school will be a sort of a Greek chorus for you as you continue to follow the scent of the murderer and work to uncover the truth behind these string of deaths in Inaba. The gossiping students reiterate certain considerations or angles on the matter you're investigating while also revealing the callous attitude of those for whom the death of a woman or girl is merely fodder for conversation. We don't overhear students who knew or loved Saki who feel unnerved by news of her death. Instead, we hear people treat her death as if it's, say, the latest twist in a television show about a serial murderer in a small town. These gossiping students hazard connections, theories, guesses, and then, as we all do with something as trivial as a television show, they let the matter drop and move on, go back to their real lives. You and Chie, and certainly Yosuke, aren't quite able to do that, aren't able to be that apathetic. And through Chie, the game voices a certain disapproval of this kind of flippancy, scoffing at how easy it is to shoot from the hip about something that doesn't personally affect you at all. And even in the prudent verbal withholding of the protagonist, who practices husbandry with regard to his inner resources, who doesn't talk when he doesn't have to, the game of Persona 4 Golden seems to argue against the motorboat of rumor, people who kind of just endlessly prattle on without knowing anything. Speaking blithely is presented as being in opposition to actual truth. In other words, you, the main character, are absolutely not a gossip. You are not the gossiping kind. The main character's self-restraint in this regard calls to mind any number of proverbs around the theme of, those who know don't speak and those who speak don't know. Here, by the way, just parenthetically, are a few favorite proverbs kind of about that lesson. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise, and he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. One other one I love. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction. Not bad, right? Pretty good. It's good. Okay, now this one is the last one. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in pictures of silver. How about that? Isn't that nice? Anyway, those are some of my favorite proverbs about basically just keeping your mouth shut and not gossiping. But, of course, you, the protagonist of Persona 4 Golden, you aren't a paragon of morality per se, and you're certainly not someone who holds themselves priggishly up as some superior specimen of virtue. So, the attitude toward rumor and the pains taken to show that you and your friends don't gossip in the same way as others, it's not meant to dismiss gossip on the simple grounds of it being a vice. Remember, the whole premise or power trip of Persona 4 isn't that you're a perfect person. It's that you're someone who sees yourself and others clearly. Remember, too, the key device of Persona 4. A pair of glasses, which are to Persona 4 what the gun is to Persona 3, or what the mask is to Persona 5. Persona 4 is about seeing yourself and other people clearly, in the light of one's fully integrated psychological self. And if there is a dismissal of rumor here, it's only on the grounds that rumor disperses what should otherwise be contained or integrated. Here's what I mean by that. You'll see over the course of the game, and even here, that although you as the protagonist are measured, reliable, cautious, given a good judgment, and valued as a solid presence by those who need your help, you're also socially, materially rewarded for subtly changing how you are, or showing different sides of yourself depending on who it is you're talking to. I mean, when you're speaking with each individual character, you'll be presented with dialogue choices, and when you select the option which will most gratify or validate the other character to whom you're speaking, you'll be rewarded by gaining affinity points with that character. This is a game mechanized way of reflecting the fact that when you provide people with what it is they need or want to hear, they feel closer to you. However, showing someone the side of yourself that most accommodates or encourages who they are at their core isn't the same kind of self-dilution or flippant two-facedness as gossiping or rumoring, I think. Instead, in certain circles, it's kind of regarded as an act of psychological prudence. Carl Rogers, the psychologist who himself was inspired in part by Otto Rank, had this idea of unconditional positive regard, which wasn't so much mere flattery or empty enabling of a patient by a doctor, but instead, an affective technique by which the doctor could make a patient feel safe in exploring all sides of themselves, and remind them implicitly that they wouldn't be thought bad, no matter what it was they said. And this, in turn, encouraged them not to be bad, but to be honest, and unafraid of stumbling upon the bad in themselves. That's what you do as the protagonist of Persona 4. When talking with Chie, you respond in a way that allows Chie to let herself be most Chie. When talking with Yosuke, you respond in a way that allows Yosuke to let himself be his most Yosuke. And in presenting them with this unconditional positive regard, you liberate and empower the people around you to change and approach more closely who it is they really are. In other words, unconditional positive regard safely paves the way to truth, whereas gossiping leads away from truth, as well as reality, which is maybe beside the point. So, why do I have such a low opinion of gossip? Why is it any less related to truth than unconditional positive regard? We've already discussed earlier the way in which truth can be fluid, to say the least, and we really only find truth in another. So really, what is the difference between unconditional positive regard and gossiping, right? Well, here's what I'd say to that. Truth is always changing, of course, but what this means is that anything leading to growth and change is also leading toward truth. Gossip, on the other hand, exists to reconfirm certain boundaries, certain tribal alliances, and gossip leaves both gossipers as little troubled or personally culpable as possible at the conclusion of the exchange. As little as possible compelled to change circumstances or themselves. So gossip is anti-truth because it's anti-growth, anti-actual change. Anyway, that's my rant about gossip as seen in Persona 4 Golden for now. Much longer episode coming up. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time.